We've now been joined by Dr. Laurent Taymans of International SOS. Laurent, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You've today published your Travel Risk Management Survey and Sentiment Report and Trends for 2015. I guess the obvious question to start with, perhaps you could just tell us a bit about the report, why you did it, what it contains.
Well, actually, yeah, thank you. It's an interesting report. It's on travel risk management, jointly published by FERMA and International SOS. Basically, the report is 4 sections. There was a 1-minute survey where we just published our findings. A 1-minute survey that had really as an objective to find who was interested in travel risk management, what kind of stakeholders they were, and if travel risk management was on their radar. We also interviewed 6 leading risk managers and/or insurance managers from some very different companies to see what the best practices were. And these people actually had some very interesting findings, very interesting findings. And then finally we came out with a legal overview. This was done by DLA Piper, and they basically painted a legal overview of the duty of care agenda in the European countries. Finally, we basically thought, after all those findings, duty of care, especially for international travelers being so important, what we did was we actually published with FERMA the Travel Risk Toolbox, which is basically a series of tools that you can use to mitigate travel risk for international travelers.
A bit more about that, the toolbox?
Well, the toolbox in itself basically comes out with some interesting, number one, it basically comes in a preventative role. So basically the idea is, what are you going to do to prevent and mitigate risks? And that toolbox is going to come out with a structured approach to implementing a travel risk management policy internally. We strongly believe in the importance of having C-level, board-level support for travel risk, for risk managers in the company, travel risk managers specifically. So when you have a C-level support, strategic support, where people basically say, it is our company's policy to be safe when you travel wherever you go in the world, I think it basically makes a very big difference for them to have that sort of support. So the Travel Risk Toolbox gives them all the tools they need to be able to implement something that is safe, that is legally compliant, but also goes further than just the insurance and legal aspects and goes into the corporate social responsibility. And
just thinking about some of the trends that come out, do you think there's some particular gaps in businesses' thinking that's coming through, or do you think across the board most businesses have got it fairly well covered off?
Well, the thing that we're seeing here is that number one, travel risk management is something that is much more on the agenda. So 80% of the risk managers that were interviewed in the 1-minute survey were very clear. They said, yes, it's on my agenda. It's actually high up on my agenda over the next year. When people do implement travel risk management programs, they're often security and not necessarily medically focused. And that's where the gap is. We find ourselves in a situation where there is a gap between security and medical. The next step for us is actually going to be a very clear actually understanding of how to implement, and that's why we came out with the toolbox, is how to implement that structured approach.
Okay, and finally, just from my own reading of it, there's some kind of frightening statistics in there about the amount of people that are ill, injured.
Actually, yeah. And one of the things that we're seeing, and that's what I see in my daily practice as a medical director at International SOS, working on the Assistance Center platform and working with companies to help them implement travel risk management. One of the things that we really do is we realize that people are very much unaware of the risks. And when you have a structured approach, you actually really mitigate them. Unfortunately, many people don't. And that's where it really hurts. And I think that when awareness continues to increase, especially in this ever-changing world where international travelers, frequent travelers, expats are just basically increasing all over the place, and that companies basically are looking at doing business in much more remote and much more hard-to-get areas, I think that it really makes a difference. It makes a difference between a failed versus a succeeded project. Exploration project, what have you, exploration, construction, even just business corporate environment.
Oh, Laurent, it's fascinating. Thank you. Good luck with the report.
Thank you very much.
I hope it works well for you. Thank you.
Thank you.